Hello and welcome to History and Facts, where we discover facts about days through the year. Please remember to like the video, comment, and subscribe. Today we are looking at September 1st through the years. September 1st is known for these national days: Ginger Cat Appreciation Day, National Little Black Dress Day, National Tofu Day in UK, and Roblox Day. With that done, let's get started with Number 1. Curtain falls on the Sun King. Louis XIV didn't just reign, he dominated the 17th century like a high-budget historical epic. Crowned at age 4 in 1643, he had a tutor until his late teens, but once he seized power, France became his personal stage. Over 72 years, he transformed a feudal monarchy into the blueprint for absolute rule. Versailles, his dazzling pet project, wasn't just a palace, it was an elaborate trap for nobles, keeping them too busy currying favor to challenge his authority. Nicknamed the Sun King, Louis didn't just love opulence, he weaponized it. He danced in ballets, yes, really, micromanaged royal dinner seating, and led France into several wars, including the War of Spanish Succession, which nearly bankrupted the kingdom. By the time he died, September 1, 1715, at age 76, he'd outlived all but one of his direct heirs. The throne passed to his 5-year-old great-grandson, setting the stage for a fragile regency and eventually the reign of Louis XV. It was the end of an era, but his influence echoes in everything from architecture to political theory. Not bad for someone who once wore a sun costume to symbolize his brilliance. Number 2. From London to Liberty. They say good things come in loud packages, and the Liberty Bell was no exception. On September 1, 1752, Philadelphia welcomed its new State House bell all the way from London's Whitechapel Foundry. It was a symbol of colonial pride and civic identity, cast to commemorate the 50th anniversary of William Penn's 1701 Charter of Privileges, which granted unprecedented freedoms for the time. Though intended to ring out unity and resilience, it didn't exactly start on the right note, literally. During its first test ring, the bell cracked. Not dramatically, no cinematic thunderclap, but enough to sour the moment. So local founders John Pass and John Stowe were called in to recast the bronze beast. Twice. Their names were inscribed on the final version, and the bell finally took up its post atop the Pennsylvania State House, now known as Independence Hall. Still, it wasn't until the 1830s that the bell earned its iconic nickname. Abolitionists, inspired by the biblical inscription, proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof, dubbed it the Liberty Bell, transforming it into a rallying cry against slavery, and eventually, a symbol of American freedom. But imperfections never stopped it from becoming a national icon. It's proof that history doesn't always need polish and perfection to resonate, just a good story and a powerful ring. Number 3. The heist that made history. The heist that kicked off America's criminal history with a bang, and a forged key. On the night of September 1, 1798, the Bank of Pennsylvania, tucked inside Carpenter's Hall in Philadelphia, was robbed of $162,821, a jaw-dropping sum at the time, worth over $3 million today. But this wasn't a masked bandit affair. It was an inside job, executed with quiet precision and zero signs of forced entry. The vault had been opened with a counterfeit key, and the culprits vanished into the night. Enter Patrick Leone, a red-haired blacksmith who had recently installed the vault's iron doors and locks. Leone had fled the city days earlier to escape a deadly yellow fever outbreak, but that didn't stop authorities from pegging him as the prime suspect. He was thrown into Walnut Street Jail, where he nearly died from the very plague he'd tried to avoid. Meanwhile, the real mastermind, Isaac Davis, began depositing the stolen money into local banks, including the one he'd robbed. Subtlety clearly wasn't his strong suit. Eventually, Davis confessed, but thanks to his powerful uncle, a judge, he struck a deal, returned the money, and walked free without serving a day in jail. Leone, on the other hand, remained imprisoned until a grand jury cleared him months later. He went on to publish a fiery memoir and sued the bank officials for false imprisonment, turning his ordeal into a public spectacle and a cautionary tale about justice gone awry. Number 4. Carrington's cosmic discovery. It was the solar sneeze heard around the world. On September 1, 1859, British astronomers Richard Carrington and Richard Hodgson independently witnessed a sudden flash of white light erupting from a sunspot, marking the first recorded solar flare in history. Carrington, mid-sketch, was so startled he dropped his pen. That 5-minute burst wasn't just a cosmic light show, it was the opening act of what would become the Carrington Event, the most powerful geomagnetic storm ever recorded. Just 17.6 hours later, Earth got walloped by a coronal mass ejection, CME, a massive cloud of magnetized plasma that usually takes days to arrive. Telegraph systems around the globe sparked, caught fire, and even operated without batteries. Operators reported electric shocks, and auroras lit up skies as far south as Cuba and Colombia, dazzling people who'd never seen such celestial fireworks. Carrington suspected a link between the solar flare and the magnetic chaos on Earth, but hedged his bets with the cautious line, "One swallow does not make a summer." Still, his observation laid the foundation for space weather science, and the event now bears his name. Today, scientists warn that a repeat of the Carrington Event could fry satellites, cripple power grids, and send our tech-dependent world into a temporary blackout. So next time the sun sneezes, maybe keep an eye on your Wi-Fi. Number 5. Boston gets a subway. In the waning days of summer 1897, Boston was about to flip the script on urban transit. On September 1, the Tremont Street Subway opened to the public, marking the birth of underground rapid transit in North America. It wasn't just about trains, it was about taming the chaos above. Horse-drawn carts, electric trolleys, and pedestrians were crammed cheek to jowl on Tremont Street, creating a traffic stew that was slow, smelly, and entirely unmodern. Boston's solution was, dig down. Engineered by Howard A. Carson, this subway wasn't a gloomy cavern. It was a gleaming passage for electric streetcars zooming beneath the city in smooth, snowy defiance. The first ride took just 3.5 minutes, and over 100,000 people hopped aboard that first day, perhaps just as curious as they were hopeful. And yes, construction had its hiccups, including a rather dramatic gas explosion that jolted nerves. But once the dust settled, Boston had itself a sleek new artery of movement. The original line connected the Public Garden to Park Street Station, with branches fanning out like roots beneath Boylston and toward the Pleasant Street incline. Though modest in distance, the impact was seismic. The subway became the framework for what would evolve into the MBTA Green Line, and cities across America looked to Boston's underground success as a blueprint. A transit revolution had arrived, not with a clanging of bells, but the hum of electricity beneath cobblestones. Number 6. The frozen farewell of Martha the Pigeon. In the early 1800s, passenger pigeons ruled the skies in North America like feathered emperors. Their flocks were so vast they reportedly blocked out the sun for hours and broke branches from trees with their sheer weight. Think avian flash mobs, but with billions of birds. These creatures weren't just numerous, they were fast, too. A passenger pigeon could cruise at up to 60 miles per hour, making them the Formula One racers of the bird world. And they nested en masse, with colonies spanning dozens of square miles. Enter Martha, the last known passenger pigeon. Hatched in 1885, she spent her final years at the Cincinnati Zoo, watched by thousands who knew she was the end of a once glorious lineage. Her name, a tribute to Martha Washington, added a touch of historical gravitas to a creature already steeped in symbolism. When she died on September 1, 1914, the keepers froze her body in a block of ice the size of a small bathtub and sent her to the Smithsonian, where she remains a preserved icon of conservation urgency. Her story triggered soul-searching across America. How could a species that once accounted for 25 to 40% of all birds on the continent vanish so completely? The answer: rampant commercial hunting and deforestation. Hunters used everything from nets to explosives to round them up by the thousands, often just for cheap meat. By the late 1800s, the skies had emptied. And Martha became a silent ambassador, reminding us that abundance doesn't guarantee survival. Number 7. Titanic's tomb. Found at last. It was the deep sea equivalent of finding Atlantis. On September 1, 1985, after decades of speculation and failed expeditions, the wreck of the RMS Titanic was finally discovered, resting nearly 12,500 feet below the surface of the North Atlantic. The mission was led by Robert Ballard of the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution and Jean-Louis Michel of France's IFREMER, using a robotic submersible named Argo that crawled the ocean floor with cameras and sonar. Just after 1 a.m., the team spotted one of Titanic's boilers, an unmistakable relic that confirmed they'd found the legendary ship. The Titanic lay in two massive pieces, separated by about 2,000 feet, surrounded by a haunting debris field of luggage and other personal effects frozen in time. But here's the twist: the expedition wasn't originally about Titanic. It was a covert Cold War operation to locate two lost nuclear submarines. Titanic was the public-facing cover story, and it turned into one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. The find reignited global fascination with the ship, inspiring documentaries, exhibitions, and eventually James Cameron's blockbuster film. It also sparked debates about preservation, ethics, and the fragility of underwater heritage. Some even proposed raising the wreck with ping-pong balls or Vaseline, ideas that were as impractical as they were imaginative. But the Titanic remains where she fell, a solemn monument to ambition, tragedy, and the enduring pull of history. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed your visit to History and Facts. If you did enjoy, or find the video interesting, we have many more coming. So please like, tell us your favorite in the comments, and subscribe, to be notified when we release a new one. See you next time.